Election Day is less than 2 weeks away, and while the Catholic Church doesn't engage in partisan politics by telling us who to vote for, it does provide guidance on church teaching, so we are prepared when hitting the polls. Joining us now to talk about engaging in the political process with our faith at the forefront is the Bishop of Brooklyn, Robert Brennan. Hi, Bishop.
Hi, Christine.
So, Bishop, we always hear the phrase, vote with our conscience. How do we go about forming our conscience before Election Day?
That's a very good question, because really the formation of conscience is a lifelong thing. We don't just decide to form our conscience in terms of an election, but that affects every choice that we make. And forming conscience has to do with having a relationship with the Lord. It comes from listening to God's word on a regular basis. It comes from knowing the teachings of the church. It comes from being imbued with the sense of love for Jesus Christ. So it has to do with the great familiarity, walking with the Lord in our daily lives. And the elections reflect our daily lives. Forming consciences for faithful citizenship then also means to be aware of the world around us and to take what we know by faith, by our relationship with the Lord, and let that inform the way we live our lives, the way we make decisions. That's true, by the way, in terms of how we spend our money and the economy, what we do with our time, even how we live out our vocation and our families. And Election Day, that's a key thing. It has to do a lot with life for this society, for our local community, and for, in this year, for our national community. So forming consciences has to do with taking what we know from our faith, but also paying attention to what's going on, paying attention to what are the real needs of the world right now, what are the serious issues that are at stake right now, paying attention to what the different candidates say, or in some cases, the different proposals that are on the ballot. It means being really, really attentive to what is the need and the situation, what are the possibilities that we face right now in 2024.
You kind of alluded to this already. We won't just be choosing political leaders on Election Day. We're also voting on Proposition 1. You wrote about it in a tablet saying, if passed, it would cement abortion on demand without restrictions, strip away a parent's right to make decisions for their children, including when it comes to gender-affirming treatments, and allow boys to compete in girls' sports. So what do you think will happen if Proposition 1 is enacted, and why would it be so dangerous?
Well, I mean, it's dangerous on many levels. So you started off by speaking about cementing abortion on demand into the state constitution. That cuts off any kind of dialogue. That cuts off any kind of possibility of us coming to agreement with one another. You know, abortion is a very divisive issue. And of course, one of our highlights as Catholics, a very big priority for us, is to transform the world around us, to change hearts and minds, to see the value of human life at every stage and at every moment. If we were to be able to change hearts and minds, something that's enshrined in the state constitution is nearly impossible to turn around. It cements not only abortion, but abortion on demand at every stage. And so even the idea of saying, hey, look, we can come to agreement that certain things are just not acceptable. That maybe there are certain times, after a particular time, we can at least come to agreement that abortions shouldn't take place in this circumstance or that. Something like this doesn't even allow for those agreements. By naming it a right rather than a choice, as the language always would have used in the past, by naming it a right, it also infringes on the rights of other people. It means that, going back to conscience, it puts people of faith and people who are opposed to abortion in the position of having to violate their conscience or to suffer punishment. That's not what our society is about. So the rights of healthcare workers, not only the Catholic healthcare systems, that's one thing, but individual workers, or the ability to pay. So on the abortion side, that's very dangerous. But we also hear about the gender-affirming surgeries, the stripping away of parents in making choices for their children. That It's incomprehensible. And yet, even though the language is specifically vague, what it does is it opens a way for court cases so that that parents will eventually lose the authority they have over the decisions that their children make at a very important time. Then you talk about the girls' sports, you talk about the restroom issues. These are very serious things. They impact our life as a church community, they impact our schools, our parishes, our CYO programs, but they also impact all of us as individuals. One of the things that we often say is that people are struggling, and I know that people have really tough burdens in their families, that young people are dealing with all kinds of pressures and confusions. And as a church, we want to be able to walk with people on that journey. Basically, what this proposition does is it drives a wedge. It drives a wedge between parents and children. It drives a wedge between the church and families, between schools and families. We're treading on very, very dangerous territory.
Scary. Now, you've said our responsibility as Catholics doesn't end on Election Day. So how should we get involved in the political process?
Indeed, we make choices on Election Day, and then we kind of, everything goes silent, right? But we're meant to engage with our elected officials, to stay in touch with them, to show support for things that are right and just and help to improve society, help to improve the common good. We're called to engage with them, to raise our voices when we are concerned about something. Even like this, with this proposition, in the early phases, to let legislators know this is a problem, and this is what it means. This is what the language leaves itself open to. That's the hallmark of a democratic society. That's not just our responsibility as Catholics. That's the hallmark of a democratic society. And so we want to be able to engage, to speak. One of the things that's possible is that the New York State Catholic Conference, they have the Catholic Advocacy Network. New York State Catholic Conference, nyscatholic.org, is the website that can give you all kinds of information. It gives us news about what bills are being contemplated, what are the things going on, but it also gives us the contact information for our local legislators so that it makes it easy for us to stay engaged. We're often called upon to endorse partisan politics, and we don't go there. We don't belong to one party or the other. We're not ruled by one party or the other. We're ruled by the gospel. And what our job is as Catholics, and this stems from Vatican II, is to read the signs of the times and interpret them through the light of faith. And so, I always say, we need Catholics in the Democrat Party. We need Catholics in the Republican Party. But as Catholics, we don't form our opinions based on the parties. What we try to do as Catholics is bring the values that we live, the values that are so important to us, the values that we believe are for the good of society, to bring those to the parties, to inform the parties of the Catholic view, rather than try to impose the party view on the Catholic Church.
A lot to consider before Election Day. Bishop Robert Brennan, thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you, Christine.
Hi, I'm Christine Persichetti, anchor of Currents News. If you like what you saw, please hit the like button on this video. And if you want to see more content just like it, subscribe and click on the bell for notifications. Thanks for watching, because we are putting your faith in the news.